Instinct Survivalist here. I wanted to come to you today, talk to you about tinders. You've seen me light some fires with some natural tinders with my War Woman WMA video, as well as the split wood fire where I use yellow poplar. You're also familiar with the man-made tinders video that I did and the reply to it for Jimmy Rants with the chips. So today I want to talk to you about tinders. I want to talk to you about a couple of characteristics of a good tinder. But I want to show you lighting them with a ferrocerium rod as we go through this. So stay tuned. Okay, so what we have is three different tinders right here. As you can tell, we've got some birch bark, we've got some cedar bark, and we've got some pine straw. Now this doesn't look like ordinary pine straw, and let me explain why. This goes back to the characteristics I was referring to. Birch bark, when you peel it off a tree, pretty much it's ready to go. You just got to make sure you got thin layers and make sure you've got some pieces that can actually take a spark, if you will. Cedar bark requires a little bit of preparation. What I did is I actually just tore it up a little bit and made some tufts. What we're looking for is the little fibers. Those fibers are what's going to catch that spark. When we catch that spark, that's why it lights or ignites, or at least gets an ember so that we can blow it into a flame. Same thing with pine straw. This pine straw, if you look alongside the road, this was actually given to me as an idea by Scott Jones, who does a primitive skills class. But what we did is, if you look alongside the road, pine straw, if it's been there for a while, is actually taking and getting sand blown on it and wearing it down overall. And so after that period of time, what you get is something that looks, well, more like straw or more like the cedar bark does, but it gets that tufts of layers and tufts of fibers that you got that will take a great spark. You can't just pick it up off the ground like I can here and have that type of tinder. To process on your own, if you needed to, if you had no other choice, there was nothing to actually lay down, or you couldn't find any tufts like this, you can take this and literally wear it down with some sand, some gravel, and just literally take a handful of it with the gravel and just rub it together and beat it up. So that's what the process is overall. So what we're using to light these today is a ferrocerium rod, and the reason being is because although you can have matches, if they get wet, you're pretty much done. The exception being is some of the storm-proof matches, and those are great, but what happens when you run out? So we're going to use a ferrocerium rod because it also works when it's wet. Lighter, if it's cold, guess what? You're pretty much screwed on that one as well. So let's look at the process to do this. We'll start with the birch bark. You can see I got a little wind blowing. It's going to help me out a little bit. So once we've got that all set, so you can get us a good strike on it. You can see after a couple of tries, you get a good full strike. We've got that one lit, and that one's going well. Now, keep in mind, this is when you really got to start going on your fire, because that stuff will burn fast if it's birch bark, just because there's so much air and so much space in there. For birch bark, I actually recommend you have a big handful compressed down and then put on there, and it should work just fine. Okay? So next we'll go to the cedar bark, and we'll do the same thing. Again, maybe pull a few ferrocerium shavings on here. Alright, so with cedar bark, there's a couple of things we may need to do to prep it a little bit more. If it's real dry, which this is not, I mean it's a little damp just because we've had some serious weather going on here in Georgia. A lot of rain, and it may take a spark, it may not. But you may have to take and let it catch an ember. You see I'm scraping some of the ferro rod down to try to get it going a little bit more. And I just, for me, we want to make sure that we've got what we need. All right, because again, if you're looking at bushcraft or survival, you want to make sure that your tinder is going to spark. Okay. And then lastly, our pine straw that we were talking about with the tufts and the fibers and everything. About getting it going. There we go. Okay, so keep in mind, as that's burning down, we'll go ahead and let it all burn out. Again, the characteristics you're looking for is something that is fibrous. So it could be tree bark, it could be leaves, it could be straw. Those leaves, by the way, you have to make sure that they are very fibrous. Sometimes it could be grasses, and if we talk about grasses, this would be an example of that tinder. I could take and process this down for our grasses to go. Okay, so that's what it boils down to. I could take and tough that up if I needed to. Again, in my birch bark as well. So keep that in mind when you're looking at natural tinders, things that you don't have with you that you need to find in the wild, or what some people call the true essence of bushcraft, simply because you're looking for those basic characteristics and finding those things in the wild. All right? So I hope this was beneficial to you. And again, the wind's helping me out here. I'm going to have to put this out shortly. But until next time, use your instincts to survive. Thanks for watching. Subscribe, like, and we'll talk to you soon.